Support for This Is an Experiment is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. And Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offer for you. That is 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code EXPERIMENT at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls.
The experience is the experiment.
Today's guest is an artist, a songwriter, and a producer who is helping guide the world to self-love and sustainability. Using her incredible self-expression and grounded energy, she's creating music that keeps you dancing as well as thinking. She's a vegan icon and a very, very sweet person. Please welcome today's guest, Mia Gladstone. And not only that, but she is joined by one of my favorite people in the whole entire world, Mr. Danny Scheinman. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Thank
Thank you so much for coming on. Here, we fix
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
I'm so excited.
So, first of all, I've been such a big fan of your music for so long. I absolutely love it. I love the way that you can listen to it and grow as well as dance. I think that's so important. And I don't think a lot of people are dedicating their craft to also helping people anymore in the same way that you are, as well as just spreading the message that you believe in. So huge ups for that. I think that's incredible.
Wow, thank you.
And then obviously you were helping with that as well. I mean, the album you guys did together, Cycles, is incredible. I fell in love with it. And that was before I knew you.
True.
Wow.
So first of all, thank you
amazing.
for giving the world that.
Thanks
really
for
appreciate
receiving
that.
it.
Thank you.
So this season is about finding the balance between being a creative and also guiding yourself through the music industry, which is business.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, I think they struggle with the fact that this is a business as well as it is an art form. I was curious, how do you find yourself kind of guiding yourself like through the business aspect of it when you're obviously such a creative as well?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like there's not much of a formula to how I move. I try to just like be authentically myself and like everything I do, and I try not like I guess social media ties into like the business aspect of it because so much of like music promo is just like, you know, marketing that you do yourself and like the content you create. And I just try to like show as much of myself in that as possible and not only do like self promo, but kind of let people in on like who I am so that they're like supporting me as a person, not only the music.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that helps a lot. And I also just try to like, I don't know, like I ask questions. I have like, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it, I really don't know what I do.
Would you say you have people you trust who kind of give you advice and you have a couple people, or do you just try things and see what happens?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have a tendency to like be pretty solo in like the stuff I do, but I mean, I certainly have like a network of people that I trust, and like I'm in a space where I'm around so many other artists who are like we're all kind of trying to do our own thing. So we have each other's experiences to learn from, and it's like a collective thing. But at the same time, I definitely have a tendency to like isolate myself when I'm like trying to figure out just different things, and because it's different for everybody. There's not like one formula that works. So
have you had any mentors that you felt helped kind of guide you at the start, or do you feel like it's sort of something that by the time you started to kind of figure out the industry, you didn't really need that sort of help?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any kind of mentor per se. I've had like trusted people along the way, like Danny, for example, is like someone I've always been able to, like obviously create with, but we've always been able to have like real conversations and like bounce ideas off each other.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of like how to maneuver through all of this. And, yeah, I don't know. I've definitely had like just different people along the way who have given advice, who have helped, but probably not like one guiding figure. It's been a whole lot of just experimentation.
And one of the things we were talking about before we started the podcast is that you're saying when you first met Danny, the first session wasn't a session. It was just human to human interaction.
Yeah, we literally just hung out. It was interesting because I feel like, I don't know, I was like 17 at the time or 18 maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a really long time ago, and I was pretty shy, and like, you know, like I wasn't used to the kind of interactions that we had. Like, Danny's not a surface level person. Like, we just got deep. Like, we just started having all these conversations. Like, he created such a like open space where I could really be vulnerable, and like
100%.
it just got so deep, and I was like, wow. And we didn't even make music. And it was funny because I was telling you, we met through an A&R essentially.
Yeah.
So I just loved that it wasn't like, all right, we're here to do a session, let's go, because it's so unnatural.
Yeah, I think that conversation is the inhibitor of creativity. I think you need experiences like that. You need like-minded individuals sometimes in order to create certain environments.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody like Danny, where it's funny when you say that because I've had a very similar experience with him. Like there was no like, hi, I'm Brad, good to meet you. It was like straight to figuring out who each other are in the most beautiful way. And I'm something that I'm incredibly appreciative of. And somebody who's, you know, as successful and far in their career as him, being able to sit down and start a conversation like that before a session happens or whatever, kind of showed me that this industry is not just about making hits. It's not just about getting to the point. It's about finding a path and learning how to use that path as fuel.
Totally.
And I think that's something you're incredible at is the ability to allow people to have the space to speak.
Thank you.
And also to listen, because I think that's a big part of it. And that's what we were talking about earlier is you're not just a great speaker, but you're a great listener.
So true.
You give me this exact same vibe. And, you know, I've met you for not long enough, but one other time before. And it was such a phenomenal experience just being around other like-minded people. And I think that's a big thing that I wish people coming into this industry understand is this is at the core of music there's a human connection that's
so true.
Do you have tissues?
Important.
Because we're both gonna cry.
You're-
Me is
cry
two
openly.
sentences away from crying.
Don't expose me like this.
I might cry too, though, so it's okay.
Let's go.
So
So true, though. Wow.
tell me what you're up to. Tell me about your career right now and your process and kind of where you see yourself going.
Well, I mean, recently I've been very immersed in a project I've been working on. I've been producing, I guess it's like, I don't know if I want to call it a full length. Like I initially was like, oh, I'm working on an album, but it's more so just like, it's so experimental that I don't really want to call it that. But it's like,
Totally.
I'm calling it a producer project because it's me like honing in on my skills as a producer, featuring other artists. And it's been really cool. It's been a very interesting process because I feel like I've just gone through so much in this whole journey of creating it because I came up with the idea to really, I guess, turn it into a project a couple years ago because I would always like make songs for fun alone, like that I produced, but it was never with the intention of being a body of work. And then I think it was kind of fueled by ego, but it was this thing where I would be frustrated when I put out a song that I produced, and then if I had anybody else who worked on it, people would always kind of discredit me. And I kind of, in a way, was like, I'm going to prove myself. Like, I'm making a project that I produced. So then I dove into that, and I put so much pressure on myself to do everything alone. And then I kind of had to like take a moment after a long time of like just being tunnel visioned working on this project. And I had to think about what the real intention was. Like, why do I have to do everything alone? Like, is that me? Will that actually be as fulfilling and gratifying as like putting out a project that I involved my community in that's like better? Or should I just do it alone and be like, well,
Absolutely.
it could have been a little better, but you know, I did it myself. So
That's when we spoke when I was in Chicago. I remember talking
Yeah.
about that.
it was such an eye-opening thing because I had never thought of it as like such an egotistical thing, but it really was. So I had to humble myself and be like, all right, like I've started all these really cool songs, but I can also like involve other people and kind of take them to the next level and be
Yeah.
able to showcase like my community's talent and not just my own. Because my whole career, like everywhere that I've gotten thus far is because of community and like really valuing the people around me. And it's not something that I can just be like, I'm alone in everything and I paved the way myself. Like, you know, it's such a group effort.
Totally.
So that's what it's become, and that's just been my focus for a while now.
I have this. Trust me, I live for the experiment. But there is one place in my life that I don't want to be an experiment. And that's when trimming my balls. Luckily, the Performance 4.0 package is here. Inside this package, you will find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, the Performance boxer briefs, and a new travel bag to hold all of your new favorite things. I needed the Lawnmower 4.0 so much more than I ever realized. This thing has a ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, all thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, a flashlight so I can actually see where I'm trimming. And not only that, but this thing's waterproof, so I can trim just about anywhere. I love this thing, and I love the whole 4.0 package, from the Lawnmower, the Weed Whacker, the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver, and all the free gifts they threw in. Trust me, fellas, your balls will thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code EXPERIMENT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code EXPERIMENT at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thought about what you do, which is a lot of people, I think ego is necessary at points, and it's necessary because sometimes your ego is something you have to sort through and take what is important and leave what's not. And what we were talking about earlier is you were saying that you're working on some stuff that might or will have features on it, and it's a newer thing for you because you produce this music.
Yeah.
This is yours. How do you kind of go through the dichotomy of what needs to be yours and what needs to be communal? How do you decide when somebody else should be part of the track? Are there songs that are so personal that you feel like it'll take away from it? Or are there songs that are so open to interpretation that you think it's important to have others, energy put into it?
I mean, I think it's just kind of like an inner knowing. Like, I guess the intention of the project was to showcase my beats featuring other people, because everything I released until like one of my songs, Geekin', was just me. And then I got featured on that song. But after that, like, it's just one song in like this whole discography. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try doing a project that's the opposite, where it actually has a feature on every song.
That's so cool.
So that was why I did it. But there's like certain interludes and stuff that don't have anybody else.
Totally.
But it's cool. It's really interesting, like opening up songs to other people's interpretation. And it's a practice in letting go and like not trying to control everything. Because sometimes I'll send people songs and I'll have such a specific view of what they'll do. And then they'll send me something totally different. That's still really cool. But I'm like, this is my song. Like the view was, I had a different view of what this would be.
When it's tough when the outcome is different than what you were expecting or hoping.
Yeah.
Even
tough.
if it's phenomenal.
That's a tough one.
If the message feels swayed, then is it still your message?
Exactly. And it's a very vulnerable thing to allow other people into your process. And I think it's a little different when you're like, like for example, when we were working on music together, like on Cycles, it was like, like bringing in other instrumentalists and just like other perspectives felt a little bit less, I guess, raw for me, because it was already a collective effort. So it's like, for me, it feels like a lot more pressure when I bring in other people, because I'm like, this is something that only I am aware of. Like, I'm the only person who's heard this stuff, and now I'm sending it to other people. And like, it's just a very like, it's a hard thing to do.
And it's interesting because I feel like this industry takes somebody who may have been an outcast at points because they were so true to their own expression and didn't want to follow the crowd. And then I've had this experience personally where I'll make a song and I know that I want somebody else on it, but I don't know how to let them know that there's a specific idea that I want to be part of it. When you go into a song, let's say you're doing a song that's very personal to you, would you tell who's working on it the story so they can understand where to come from? Or do you think it's important, and I guess this could be song for song based, but do you think it's important for their perspective to be, solely based on their experience with the song?
Well, it's definitely like a song-to-song basis. I typically, when I send a song, I'll just send the song with no context at first and just see how they feel about it.
Totally.
And then from there, if they show interest, then I'll usually give either I'll just send the lyrics, or sometimes I'll give a rundown. Honestly, hearing you say that, I'm like, I probably should give more context for what the songs are about. Because, like, I'll write something that I feel like is pretty straightforward, but not everybody is like, people don't know what your perspective is if you don't say it. So that's actually it's a good idea.
Well, language seems to always come around with some sort of bias. It's based off
Yeah.
of personal experience. A sentence could mean something completely different to somebody else
So
who's had,
true.
a different path. But
Yeah.
also part of that is the beauty. And that's part of the reason that a lot of these massive, massive pop songs that are all over the radio have 15 people on them. I think it's important at times to have that outside perspective, and therefore you get outcomes that may have not been possible, with a certain or a specific mindset.
Yeah.
And have you dealt with that at all when you've been in sessions with artists and you have to find kind of the happy medium between them having their own story and also having a story that can portray a larger mass?
I mean, I never really consider other people when I'm writing. Like, I don't really consider like mass appeal. I just kind of like, I don't know. I don't even like really set an intention for what I'm going to write about. So it's usually just like a free flowing idea that comes.
Totally.
And I mean, in the stuff I'm working on now, none of the sessions that I'm like the people I'm featuring, none of it's in person. So it's not really a matter of like being on the same wavelength in a session. It's more so like me just doing it, free thought, and then just sending it over.
Totally.
But that was like when we were working on Cycles, you challenged me to like actually set intentions for like what we were writing about, which I think was really cool. Like, or not even like boxing it in, but I remember like when we made food. Is it okay if I turn it all? Like,
Yeah,
or should
absolutely.
I just? Okay, because I feel like I'm like.
You're more than okay.
Okay, because I want to make sure to still get it.
Totally.
When we were making food, like I wrote out like 5 pages of like how I was feeling and just like what I wanted to convey. It was more like a journal entry, I guess. And then we created food from that. And I guess I don't do that as much for like the stuff I'm working on now, but that was like, I mean, Food is one of my favorite songs I've ever made. It's very vulnerable because it came from a place of just like, these are like my private thoughts that I'm writing down.
Yeah.
And then we just like created something from that.
Yeah, there was like a little push and pull to get there, I feel like,
There was.
I mean, that's part of the process. It's just
Absolutely.
like, this doesn't really come that easy.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of this whole experience is I don't think it's supposed to be easy. I think there's times when it definitely does come easy, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But I think the work is what makes a story solidified. You can have an experience that's so important to you, but if you're not putting in the work to convey it, then maybe you're not portraying it accurately.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it too. I think the struggle is necessary. At least a
Agreed.
lot of the time. And,
I agree.
Pressure creates diamonds.
It's so true.
I gotta say this. I feel like that concept is so lost in a lot of people. I'm not gonna say younger generation. I don't even want to talk like that. But just there are so many artists out there where if it's not their first instinct, if it's not the first thing that comes off, they don't see value in it. There's
Totally.
like in the refinement process, they think it's something. Here's what I observed, that people look at the refinement process as not being a creative process. That's what I see a lot. The first gut instinct when people step on a mic or make a beat, that's creativity. But refining it or taking lyrics and pouring over them till it's something that you absolutely want to say, that's not creativity anymore. That's hard work, which it is, but it's also creative.
Absolutely. And I find it hard to separate the creativity from any of this, because I think to make
100%.
this final product that you want to be proud of, creativity is 100% necessary, or else it becomes something that you've heard before. And I don't care who you are, it can be a banger, but being an artist and sitting back and listening to a song that had the ability to be vulnerable and be fully open, and that yet it sounds like every song on the radio, that's got to be a tough feeling to know that you put in all this work for something that feels mundane, versus having something that somebody could do in a day, but you let it take 2 months. And because of all of the energy put into it, it becomes something that's just has a little bit more of a sparkle to it.
Yeah.
And Food, I thought, definitely had that. And the production kind of mirrored that, which was really cool. And that doesn't come from bullshitting. That comes from really looking in and working hard. Absolutely knuckle that. That's deserved.
Absolutely knuckle that. You better knuckle that, man.
You better knuckle that.
So have you found the industry to be welcoming, or have you found it to be kind of full of friction?
Huh. I would say, you know, there's a mix of everything. Like, it's really just on a person-to-person basis.
Totally.
I mean, it's a common theme that once, like, people see, I guess, like a kind of positive momentum, they'll kind of hop on. You know, like one person supports you or a bunch of people support you, then everybody else is like, yay. But then when you're not seeing that overt support, you know, it's more likely that like those same people will maybe pay a little bit less attention until there's like something to celebrate. Yeah. I've definitely found that like I'll post a song and I'm like, oh my God, here's a new song. And people will be excited, but it won't be like, well, let's just compare it. Like people will be excited, but it's not like a crazy response. But then I'll be like, hey guys, that new song, it's on this playlist. And I'm like, whatever, the cover of this playlist. Then everybody's like, oh my God, I love that song. You know,
it's like the dichotomy of being a musician is just fucking weird.
It's weird because you're like, I think about it like, because I just released a song. So I've been thinking about a lot just what it means to be an artist and like just having this weird existence. It's like you're taking this stuff that is so personal to you. And like, I think about it like I wrote this in the privacy of my own home. Like I didn't even let my family hear it when I was making it. Like it was, you know, off limits. And I'm just like experimenting alone or even with Danny, like we had a safe space that was just us. Yeah. And then when the time is right, you suddenly are like, okay, here worlds, like we're releasing it. Now it's yours. Yeah. So it's so weird because it just like opens yourself up to so much like judgment, whether that's positive or negative or in between. It's just like, it is so vulnerable and it always feels like I'm trying to shift how it feels for me because I think I have a negative tendency when it comes to releasing music where I'll just get so fixated on like things I can't control. It's like we've done our part. We've made the music and it's out there and now it's up to the world to like whoever wants to find the music or needs to find the music, they can find it. Totally. But I'll be trying to control that and I'll be so fixated on like the numbers, the response when that's not what matters.
The outcome, totally.
Yeah, the outcome, exactly. So it's such a weird like position to be in.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's it can be daunting at times. And I think a lot of the times, if not most of the time.
Yeah. It's rare that I feel like it always feels very anticlimactic. It's like, okay, the song's about to release midnight, and then like it's 12:01, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
it's
time
out.
to go to bed.
It's
no, I'm
weird.
up.
Yeah.
How do you balance being a humble person as well as being a confident person?
I think I find like confidence through music. Like I don't feel necessarily confident in life, I guess. Like I feel pretty shy a lot of the time and a little like insecure, just uncertain in most social situations. But I think like maybe I use music as a way to showcase my confidence or like a way to express my perspective that I can't like with words or like social interactions.
I look at music like talking to a best friend. When you're talking to a best friend and you're just sitting on the couch watching a movie, eating popcorn, saying whatever you want feels very comfortable. And I think that's how people like the three of us and the community we surround ourselves with express ourselves because a lot of us are not, we seem more social than we are. Yeah. Which is funny because I talk for a living on a podcast. And yet if I get in a room with too many people that I don't know, I freeze. I don't know what to do. And I'm a very outgoing person, but in certain situations, I lose that. But then somebody plays an instrument and I walk over and I'm suddenly, we're best friends.
Totally.
And it's so weird how everybody's given a different way to express themselves. And some of them are judged by the masses.
I know.
That's this life where our goal is to make something that will eventually be judged by the masses and hopefully can connect with people.
Yeah.
Judged well.
Well,
hopefully it's judged well. And speaking of the masses, Howard Stern.
The mass.
The man with the hair.
Is he the master?
I think he's
the world's puppet. He's just puppeteering.
Yeah, he's the
figurehead.
He's the puppet on top.
Guy makes all my decisions for me.
We were just talking about your experience with him.
Indeed.
And the dichotomy also between positive and negative press. Because somebody talking about your song and playing it in front of that many people, doesn't matter what they say, they're playing it in front of that many people.
So true.
And he wouldn't have played it if he didn't want to play it.
Yeah.
Which I find so crazy that somebody could put a song on in front of that many people and yet still say something that obviously is Howard Stern, and there's not much he likes
That's
in the
his
world.
whole thing.
Yeah, and it's how we got to where he is, and I bet you if you were sitting in a room, just the two of you talking, it'd be a very different conversation.
You know, one day we're going to get to ask him.
Oh, fuck yeah, you
Oh,
are.
yeah.
Either I'm
we
going to
will.
see him somewhere or Mia see him somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll just say, what was that about, man?
Better yet,
What did I do
Howard,
to-
we're getting you on the podcast to talk about this.
Yeah, Howard, what's up?
Mr. Stern, sir.
He's watching.
right.
Yeah, you better be. So I'm excited to see or listen to the new music you're putting out, because it sounds like your perspective is only growing.
Yeah.
And your life experiences and your community and friendships are only growing. And I'm really excited to hear what a feature sounds like through the lens of you.
Oh, thank you.
On a track that you produced.
Hmm.
What is it like being in an industry that pigeonholes, where you are an artist, and unfortunately in this industry, there's not as many people do not understand how many incredible female producers there are as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, if somebody's an artist, it's hard for people to see them also as the creator, as the producer, as the this, as the that, as a songwriter.
Yeah.
Have you had any pushback or times where you had to kind of, you know, hold your own to show people, hey, I'm not just the artist. I'm not just the songwriter. I'm not just the producer. I am this experience all put together, and I'm phenomenal at all of them. I mean, has there been that pushback?
That's so nice of you to say.
I love what you're making.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a daily thing.
Mhm.
I try to pay less mind to it though, because like I said, the project is like it was such an ego-based thing.
Yeah.
I have to do it myself because no one believes I can. But I try not to focus on that, because there are people who believe in me, and like,
Absolutely.
why not focus on those people, and like, or just focus on myself. I believe in myself. So
Pick your fuel.
Exactly. Like, I'm not really pressed over people not like giving me credit where it's due, because who are they to
Absolutely.
tell me who I am?
Totally.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's even a process in myself. Like, making this project alone, I've experienced a lot of self-doubt, a whole lot of like, what's that word? Like, that people always use who are artists, where they feel like a fraud.
Oh,
What's that syndrome?
Imposter syndrome.
I feel that sometimes.
Yeah.
I never did growing up. I was always like really confident in my musical ability. It was like the one thing I could say about myself. Like, I'm good at music. Like, I always thought that growing up. But then when I just like isolated myself from everybody and started making a project alone, I kind of started to lose my like sight of what I was making. And I was like, can I do this? Like, I don't even know. I felt so in over my head.
Totally.
But
And those experiences are
Yeah.
important, because self-doubt should be met with self-love.
So true.
And just like I believe bad speech, the only thing that can help with it is positive speech and reinforcement.
yeah.
I think that self-doubt gives you an opportunity to search through drawers that may not be opened otherwise and sort through them. And that's so important. But it's also important to let off of that sometimes and allow yourself to enjoy the experience that you're having and enjoy the skin that you're in and all these situations. And I think what you're doing is giving young girls and young boys and old girls and old boys and everybody the opportunity to feel comfortable in their skin, because they hear somebody who's doing that themselves. And I commend you for that. I commend both of you for that, for finding this balance of thought-provoking music that allows you to also step away and not think for a second when you want, and dance.
Yeah.
And then find situations that you can relate to, and just everything you guys are doing, I think, is phenomenal. I love Danny to death. He's one of my favorite people in the world, but he has nothing to do with why I love your music. I loved it before. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of both of you.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to see what the world gets from you guys, because I think it'll be very important.
thank you.
Me too.
Of course.
I love Danny, you know, like, he has helped me develop so much as an artist and like a human. It has been such a blessing to get to like create with somebody that's so open and like, just like, you know, creates a space where you can really just be vulnerable and express and experiment without being judged. Because we did some weird shit on the record.
Yeah.
Like I was like, you were pushing me for sure in a respectful way, but like, you know, me relinquishing control, because I like to write all my stuff typically alone.
Yeah.
So like having Danny there and like really having you like, you're not a yes man. You're not like, you know, you hear what I write and you're like, yeah, perfect, great. Like, you always had a way of pushing it further. And sometimes that would frustrate me because I would be like, bro, I just spent like an hour writing this.
You're not the only one. It frustrates everybody.
But then look at the result, you know, like I can say that it's some of my favorite stuff I've ever, like I'm so blessed to be a part of it. And
you guys are sitting here together right now. Yeah. It worked.
Here we are. Yeah, it clearly worked out.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I can't thank you enough for coming back on.
Anytime. It seems to be my second home these days.
And definitely not just the second. There'll be many, many more. And I would really love to have you on again and
I love that.
Ask some more questions. But I really appreciate you both coming on and giving me the opportunity to share you guys on my platform. So thank you so much. And can't wait to do this again, and hopefully I can hear a couple of these songs once this camera turns off.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And
thank you for having us.
To everybody listening,
I'm Mia Gladstone.
I'm Danny Scheinman.
This is an experiment.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you guys so much.
The experience is the experiment.